Hi everybody, Beatle Dave, your friendly neighbourhood record collector, calling to you from Derbyshire in the UK. For this video, I'm going to do what I said I was going to do on my last video. I was thinking of doing a George Harrison ranking video. I did have some people comment and say, Dave, do it, we'd like to see what your ranking would be. So I've decided I'm going to do it. I am restricting myself to the 11 studio albums that George released during his lifetime. So I'm not including the concerts for Bangladesh. I'm not including the live in Japan. I'm not including Brainwash because that was actually released after he unfortunately passed away. And I'm not including the Travelling Wilburys album. So it is basically just the George Harrison albums. There's 11 albums that we're going to be looking at. I will try and do it as quick as I can. Obviously, something's got to be at the bottom, number 11, and something's got to be number 1. I don't expect you all to agree with this ranking. It has actually changed a couple of times, even when I've been thinking of doing it. Just bear with 1 second, folks. Sorry about that. I just realised I'd left something over there. Right, so we're going to be ranking the 11 albums, which basically goes from 1968 up to 1988, I think, if I remember rightly. Just before we start, just a quick thank you to everybody that is subscribing. We've had quite a few new subscribers over the past month or so. So thank you very much, whether you're old subscriber or a new subscriber, everybody's welcome in my channel. So let's crack on then, shall we? The George Harrison rankings. Well, in my opinion, let me have a quick drink. Like I say, these are really always a bit weird to do because not everybody's going to agree with these positions. I think you'll agree with the first one, which is the least favourite one of mine, which is from 1969. So you should really know what it is. And it is Electronic Sounds. No actual proper songs on it. It was released on the very short-lived Zappa album, and this should be regarded as like John and Yoko's experimental albums because that's what it is, and it's an experimental album. The best thing about it probably is the cover, so it's not so much for it, is it really? When I got back into record collecting in a serious way about 10 years ago, I always wanted an original UK copy of this. This is actually a reissue from 2017, I think it is. And all I'll say is I'm glad I saved my money. That's not being harsh. It's what it is. It's what George wanted to do at the time. And as we'd say in England, you know, it got the balls to do it. So you've got Under the Mersey Wall, which is side 1, and side 2 is No Time or Space. And it's George basically messing about with a very, very early synthesizer, which was called a Moog. Zappa 02. You get a nice insert with it. With the Zappa logo. Yeah, original UK copies of this go for stupid money. Since I've had it, I think I've played it a handful of times. Would I recommend you get the original? In all honesty, no. Would I recommend you get it if you're just a casual George Harrison fan? No. Would I recommend it if you're completist like me? Then yes, but you won't be playing it very often. It's not everybody's cup of tea. It's not my cup of tea, to be honest. I've tried to like it. I'm not saying it's crap as such. It's just not really what you'd expect. But like I say, it's what George was doing at the time. So hats off to him for doing something completely different. And as I've said, consider this like John and Yoko's experimental albums, then you roughly know what it is. Not proper songs on it or anything. But yeah, so that's my least favourite. Now, all the other ones, apart from that one, I will make this clear, I like every one of George's albums. Even Electronic Sounds has got its merits. Not many, but it has got its merits. One, it was on the short-lived Apple label. Two, it's got a colourful cover artwork, which I think George did as well. The unfortunate thing is there's no proper music on it. This next one might come as a bit of surprise. A lot of people probably have this one high up in their rankings. This is an album I've tried and tried and tried to get on with. It's not I don't like it. It's just I just can't seem to connect with it, if that makes sense. There is some nice songs on it, and there's some brilliant songs on it, and there's some not so good songs on it, which in all fairness seems to be on the majority of George's albums. And it's Gone Troppo from 1982. I've tried my hardest to love this album, and I just can't do it. I love some of the songs on it. Side one kicks off with "Wake Up My Love," a great song. That's the Way It Goes, again, a great song. I Really Love You, so-so song in my opinion. Grease, so-so song. Gone Troppo is an okay song. Side two, Mystical One, which is okay. Unknown Delight. Baby Don't Run Away is okay. Dream Away is okay. And Circles, well, Circles is supposed to be a mythical Beatles song, but I don't know whether it is or not. I don't know why I can't get on with it. I've tried and tried and tried. I do like it, but I end up skipping some of the songs that I don't like, which is very unlike me. But the musicianship and everything is great on it. George's voice is good on it. To me, it just seems, I don't know if this was some sort of contractual album that he'd got to make, or if he thought, well, I better just make a record anyway. But to me, it doesn't seem like it's an album that he actually really wanted to make. Again, this is just in my opinion, so don't shoot me. Like I say, that's the fun of doing these ranking videos. Not everybody's is going to be the same. It has got some good songs on it though. Would I recommend you get it? Yeah, it's an okay album. It just doesn't have a wow factor as such. But I don't know why. Like I say, George is in good spirits. The musicianship's in good spirits. It's produced brilliant. Just doesn't seem to have that oomph, in my opinion. That's it. This next one is probably one of the albums that certain Beatles or George Harrison fans love to hate. I've always liked this album. Controversial again, Dark Horse from 1974. When George released this or recorded this, he wasn't in a very good place, to be honest. That doesn't mean where he was living. I meant sort of like in his head. It fell out with most of the Beatles. His marriage to Patty was all but over. His friendship with Eric Clapton was on the rocks. His friendship with Ringo was on the rocks. And I think he was sort of like, didn't really know what to do. He did go on an American tour around the time of this album, and his voice gave way. I don't know if it's tonsillitis or not, but so it doesn't really sound like the George we love on some of these songs. His voice is a lot deeper, which does actually suit some of these songs. I mean, he doesn't look very happy on that, does he? I mean, it looks, as we say in England, he looks fed up or pissed off on that, which he probably was, not knowing what direction his life was going in and things like that. A lot of fans criticised this cover, saying it's like a piss take of the Sergeant Pepper album cover, but it's not, is it? It's a school photo of George, and he's just coloured it in. The songs on here, we do get some good songs. Honestly, This Is How It Came. This is the original In the Sleeve. I haven't voted on that. That's how it came, which is a bit like John and Yoko one from some time in New York City, isn't it? Right, so side one, we get On Tour and Simply Shady. They're both okay, to be honest. Then you get So Sad, or Ringo's on this, so I don't know when this was recorded, but Jim Keltner's on it as well, Nicky Hopkins and Willie Weeks. Then you get George's version of Bye Bye Love. Now, this is the one that most people criticise. It's Bye Bye Love by the Everly. Bye Bye Love, Bye Bye Happiness. You know the one, yeah? Well, George does the version of that, but he rewrites some of the lyrics and mentions like Patty going off with Eric and things like that. But then he gets them to sing backup vocals on it as well, which was very clever in one way if you think about it. I've always liked it's quite a humorous song, but that might just be my sense of humour. Anyway, I don't know. I don't think it was meant to be a hate song, which people think it is. I think it's George just basically putting his feelings into a song of what his feelings were like at that time. And then you've got May I Love. You know, he has got some of his friends are still on here, like Jim Keltner and Billy Preston. Side two, you get Ding Dong, Ding Dong. Great song, should have been a big hit. Then you've got Dark Horse. Now, that is the one where I think his gravelly voice, should we say, actually suits that song. Great song, anyway. I'm a dark horse, man in the dark, dark race course. Should have been a massive hit. It was sort of, but it wasn't a massive hit. Then you've got Far East Man, and It Is He. This actually came in the UK on a custom label. So on one side you've got George, and on the other side you've got Olivia. It's quite an enjoyable album, to be honest. Don't listen to the critics. Make your own mind up on it. That's all I'll say. Make your own mind up. And you do get the lyric sheet in there as well somewhere. We're all different. We all have different opinions, which is one of the fun things about doing videos like this. Then we've got Extra Texture. From 1975. Now, this is George getting a little bit more back to being the George we all love. His voice is okay on this. The production on this is very good. The musicianship's very good. And there's actually some really good songs on it. Now, this is a UK copy, and in the UK, this actually came in a textured sleeve, believe it or not. I don't think you can see it there, but this is actually all textured, and that's like raised and things like that. In America, you pulled your inner sleeve out, didn't you? And then that came out, didn't it? It's like die cut. I think that's what you call it, isn't it? Die cut. Again, on the Apple label. Look, George is even smiling on that. Look, difference in a year. I think this was taken from his 1974 tour, I think. And this was one of the last, I think it was the last LP on Apple of original songs. So George had the first solo Apple record, and he had the last solo Apple record. And the nice thing about this is the actual label is an Apple core. Some great tracks on this. Quite a bit of like a poppy stroke soul-y album in places, this is. You've got You, and I would love you. Then you've got the answers at the end. This guitar can't help from crying, which I think is like an updated version of While My Guitar Gently Weeps. And that was actually released as a single in the UK in 1976 on Apple, and it didn't get anywhere, and is one of the hardest Apple singles to get in the UK. Ooh, Baby, You Know That I Love You, good song. World of Stone's a good song. Side 2, A Bit More of You, which is A Bit More of You. It's a snippet of Part of You. Can't Stop Thinking About You, again a great song. Tired of Midnight Blue, So-So. Grey Cloudy Lies, Oh-So. And then His Name Is Legs, ladies and gentlemen, which is about Legs Lavi Smith, who was the drummer for a strange UK band called the Bonzo Dog Doodah Band. And Legs Lavi Smith actually shares vocal duties on that with George. It is a good album. Again, if you haven't got it, I'd say if you're a George Harrison fan, you probably do need that one in your collection. Probably not essential, don't get me wrong, but if you want to get a proper like overview of George's work, that is a nice one to have. And this one's going to be controversial because a lot of people say, well, how can you have that above them? This is so that was the last Apple record, or last solo Apple record, and this is the first solo Apple record by Beatles. Wonderwall music by George Harrison. This is a German copy. I've got an original UK, it's mono, mine, where this is stereo. And this is the soundtrack of a very, very obscure psychedelic film called Wonderwall. Now, a lot of people will dismiss this album straight away by just saying it's all Indian music. It's not. It's a soundtrack album. There is Indian influences on it, or Indian music. There's some rock music on it. There's even a bit of like music hall sort of stuff on it. It is actually a very, very nice album to listen to. You do get the inner for this. I mean, when people say, oh, you know, it's all Indian music, well, it can't be, can it? Because Eric Clapton's on it and Ringo Starr for start. Originally, this was Sapcore 1. Excuse me. I'd say this is a German version on the Apple label, which is how this appeared in the UK, just on a standard Apple label. If you're not seeing some of these labels 100%, I will apologise. I've actually already done this video, believe it or not, and I did it on my phone, and I got right to the end of it, and then my phone wouldn't switch off. And then all of a sudden it switched off on its own, and then it wiped the video. So this is take 2, although you haven't seen take 1, this is actually take 2. Cracking album. Would I recommend this to you? Yeah, I would. If you're in two minds, right, go out and buy the CD. If you can find it. If not, go to your local streaming device, whatever it is, and just download a couple of the tracks, or listen to the whole album, and you will be very pleasantly surprised at how good this album is. Very, very underrated, in my opinion. Not the greatest thing he ever did, don't get me wrong, but it's by no means the worst album he did. And unlike Electronic Sounds, there's proper songs on that. The next one is 1981's Somewhere in England, sorry. I think it's sometime in New York City. Somewhere in England. This was George Harrison's album. It came out just after John had died. There's only 2 Beatles or Beatles-related albums came out in 1981. There was this one by George, and then there was Ringo's Stop and Smell the Roses, which was originally going to be called Can't Fight Lightning, I think. This album is a good album. It is a good album. If it didn't have one track on it, it would just be a good album. But there's one track that makes this probably a little bit of a better album than it probably would be. And that track is All Those Years Ago. George rewrote that, didn't he, just after John had died, as a tribute to John. And it is basically, in all but name, a Beatles song. George wrote, sings and plays guitar. Paul does backing vocals and I think plays a little bit of bass. Linda sings backing vocals, and I think Ringo's on it as well on drums. And if I remember rightly, George Martin type with the production of it. Great song. But there's other good songs on there as well. You've got Blood from a Clone, which is a good song. You've got Unconscientious Rules, which is so-so. You've got Life Itself, which is okay. All those years ago, like I say, there's the standout track on here. Baltimore Oracle, which is a so-so song. Side 2 got Teardrops, again, brilliant song. That Which I've Lost is a okay song. Writings on the Wall is okay. Hong Kong Blues is good. And Save the World, which is a good song. All in all, a good album. Not really a bad song on it, to be honest, but the outstanding track on that and what makes that album is all those years ago. But again, that is just my opinion. I don't expect you all to agree with everything I'm saying. It'd be nice if you do, but we've all got different opinions, haven't we? Then we get 1976, 33 and a third. This is actually one of the best albums I think George ever did. There's no sort of religious songs on it at all. There's not really any Indian songs on it. It's more of a pop album. George's humour comes through on this as well. His songwriting great on it, and it is more like the George we love. He's even managing to smile a bit on this look. Excuse me. You get the inner. It's on the Dark Horse label, which of course was George's own label after he left EMI, Capital Apple. And originally this was supposed to be promoted or distributed by A&M Records, and he ended up going to Warner Brothers because he fell out with A&M. I don't know why. So you've got It's What You Value, brilliant song. True Love, the old Cole Porter song. Pure Smoky. Crackerbox Palace, brilliant song. If the video for that is still on YouTube, check it out, because basically that's George messing about in his garden with members of the Monty Python team. Learning How to Love You. Side 2. You've got Woman Don't You Cry For Me, Dear One, Beautiful Girl, This Song, and See Yourself. This song is also a really, really good track. There was a video for that, and it's all set in a courtroom, and it's basically taking the mickey out of the fiasco of them being sued for copyright over My Sweet Lord, which they said was a infringement of He's So Fine and One Fine Day. So they didn't just copy it off 2 songs, it copied off 1 song, it's 2. But He's So Fine was influenced by One Fine Day, which was okay, but then George was influenced by He's So Fine, which is what he got the copyright for, as far as I can make out, because they said it was too close. I don't think it was. And he always said, he didn't realise he'd done it, and there was all these clever people in the courtroom saying, well, that bridge there or that note there is identical to that one, and that one there is identical to that, but that one's slightly an octave higher or lower or whatever. And he says, well, if he did do it, it didn't do it on purpose. He did it, he didn't realise he'd done it. But the daft thing is, the person that sued him was Alan Klein, who had been George's manager. One day I will do a video on Alan Klein. One day I will, if I get if I'm brave enough to do it. It wasn't the best thing to happen to the Beatles, I don't think. But that's by the by. Next up, we've got George's comeback album from 1987, which is around the time I actually met George. I met him in a pub. This is probably the most Beatley album George ever did in lots of ways. And I mean that in a nice way. A lot of these songs on here, you could imagine being on Beatles albums if the Beatles hadn't split up. Sounds very much like Yellow in places as well. And some of these songs, excuse me, would have fitted onto Travelling Wilburys albums, which isn't surprising really when you think it was produced by Jeff Lynne, who had been in ELO and also was a member of the Travelling Wilburys. So, excuse me, I think I've got a cold coming. So side one kicks off with Cloud Nine, a fantastic song. That's What It Takes. Fish on the Sand, Just for Today. This Is Love, great song. When We Was Fab, George's humour coming through again. Ringo's in the video for that, isn't he? And Elton John's in it. And if you look, there's all clues to Beatles songs and everything in the proper video for that. Side two, Devil's Radio. Someplace Else. Wreck of the Harris Peas. Breath Away from Heaven. Got My Mind Set on You. Well, Got My Mind Set on You was the big hit from this album. It sort of like relaunched George's career. Well, they'd never really been away, had it? It'd just been 5 years since his last record. But he had been busy making films for Monty Python and stuff, hadn't he? And made handmade films, his own company and things like that. A lot of people didn't even realise that was a cover version. I didn't. When that came out, I didn't realise that was a cover version. I knew George hadn't written it, but I thought somebody had actually written it for him. But it's an obscure 1950s song, isn't it? Great album. If you haven't got it, should you have it? Yeah, simple. This next one is probably one of my favourite of George's albums, Living in the Material World from 1973. Again, this one is on Apple. There's a gatefold sleeve. Some great songs on here. Song for song, I think if All Things Must Pass would have been a single album, I think this record, this album, would have been just as good as that song for song. But obviously, that's in hindsight. So you've got Give Me Love, Give Me Peace on Earth, great song. Sue Me, Sue You Blues, The Light That Has Light in the World, Don't Let Me Be Too Long, Who Can See It, Living in the Material World, again, lovely song. Side two, The Lord Loves the One That Loves the Lord, which actually sounds like that could have been on All Things Must Pass. Be Here Now, Try Some, Buy Some, The Day the World Gets Round, and That Is All. A few sort of like spiritual songs on it, but not many. Cracking the album, really. Very underrated in a lot of ways, I think, that album. And obviously, I think it's one of George's best because it's in the top 3, which I think only leaves us now 2, doesn't it? So can you guess what they are yet? Right, number 2, I've got George's album from 1979, which is simply called George Harrison. George in his garden. He liked to show his garden off, didn't he? Some great songs on here. What we've got Love Comes to Everyone. That should have been a single. Not Guilty, George's reworking of the unreleased at the time Beatles song, which was originally going to be on the White Album. The words are exactly the same. It's just this is more of like a up-tempo, dare I say it, disco-y tinted version, and not as heavy laden with guitars as the Beatles version. In all honesty, this is a brilliant version, but I think that the Beatles one is slightly better, more rockier. This is more, like I say, a slowed down version in a lot of ways. Here Comes the Moon, which is sort of like George's rewrite of Here Comes the Sun. A great song, though. Soft-hearted Hannah. I fell in love with my soft-hearted Hannah. Great song. George's humour comes through on that one. Blow Away, which was the single in the UK, didn't really do anything. Should have done really very, very Beatlesque in places. Dark Sweet Lady. Your Love Is Forever. Soft Touch. If You Believe. And then the outstanding track on this for me is Faster. Faster than a bullet from a gun. He is faster than everyone. No one knows quite how he did it, but it's true they say he's a master at going faster. Which he wrote for all his friends in Formula One Grand Prix motor racing. George was a very, very big fan of Formula One. Used to go to most of the races and stuff, didn't he? Big friends with Jackie Stewart and Nicky Lauda, Damon Hill, and when his dad was alive, Graham Hill. Very friendly with Colin Chapman, who used to run the Lotus F1 team as well. Friends with Frank Williams and all that lot. Loved his motor racing, loved his cars, had a fantastic collection of cars as well. And I think he was one of the first people in the UK to get the McLaren F1 road car. But I could be wrong on that. Again, very relaxed looking George there. And if the album that's at number one had never been released, I would say this was the best album George ever made in his lifetime. But it's not, it's the second, because the one that's above it is actually George's masterpiece. And if you've been paying attention, you should know what it is. Bear with 1 sec. So I don't know if I've got a cold coming, if it's just dust or whatever, because we have been cleaning up in the house today as well. So my number one, which will probably be most George Harrison fans' number one, is All Things Must Pass. And if an album ever deserves the title of a masterpiece, this is it. At the time, a very bold move by George to release a 3-album set. Although, in all fairness, it's a double album with a 3 jam album into it. The famous story is, I don't know how true it is, that George asked Phil Spector to co-produce this with him. And apparently Phil Spector turned around and he goes, well, yeah, I don't mind, but I want to hear some of the songs first. And George sort of like turned around and goes, what, I've got to audition for you? And Phil Spector says, oh, yeah, I want to hear some of the songs. Now, some of those songs which George recorded for Phil Spector to hear ended up on the 2021 box set of All Things Must Pass, anniversary box set. It is definitely George's masterpiece. Now we've got the other box set, the 50th anniversary box set, and we can hear some of these songs without the Phil Spector wall of sound and everything. I think, in my opinion, it could have been an even better album, but at the time we did have the wall of sound on it and it suited this down to the ground. Lots and lots of songs. Apparently some of these songs on here he'd written in 1965 and 1966, and it was like he wanted to do a double album so he could get rid of the backlog of some of the songs that he had. Obviously, big hit on here in the UK was All Things Must Pass, but didn't you get What Is Life as a single in America as well, didn't you? Again, a lot of his friends helped him out on this album. Ringo's on it, Eric's on it, Billy Preston's on it, Klaus Voormann's on it, although Eric Clapton doesn't get credited on it because of contractual obligations at the time. 3-album masterpiece. Well, two of the albums are masterpieces. I do still play this more than the anniversary box set. I've got this on CD, a few different versions of it on CD. Records 1 and Records 2, I do actually play quite often. The Jam album, I play it every now and again. Is it essential for you to having a George Harrison collection? Definitely. Originals did come with a poster and things as well, which I'm not going to get out because this video has been going on for longer than I was expecting it to. So I will apologise. If you've watched this right to the end, thank you very much. I hope you've enjoyed this. This is a nice thing about doing these little videos, these ranking videos. When you're planning them, it's changing all the time. And probably tomorrow, I might think to myself, well, really, I shouldn't have put that one there. I should have put that one. I think the top 3, top 4, yeah. In some ways, I think I could have put the war music slightly higher than it was. The bottom 2 would always be the bottom 2, though, in all honesty. So I hope you've enjoyed it. As I've said before, thank you to everybody that is subscribing. The subscriptions are going up slightly now. Done quite well in the past month, actually. Just remember, even though it's called a subscription, it doesn't cost you anything to subscribe. If you like the video and you're not subscribed, just hit the subscription button, which is down here, and also hit the notifications button. Then you get notifications when I'm doing new videos. If you want to leave me a comment, please leave me a comment. I do try and get back to most of them. I read them all. If I don't answer you, I will either leave you a thumbs up so you know that I've actually read it and acknowledged it, or a heart. Like I said before, there's nothing worse than following somebody on YouTube and you know, whenever they've got a video out or you watch it and you put some and they never even say, oh, cheers or anything like that. I know it's hard because some of the channels have got a hell of a lot more subscribers than I have, but it is nice to read them all because that's the interaction between people that make videos and the people that watch the videos. So thank you to everyone that's supporting me, subscribing, liking and leaving comments. Just remember, I love you all. You are the beat in Beatle Dave. You lot, we wouldn't have this wonderful little channel. I hope this hasn't been too boring for you. As I say, I was going to do this the other day, and then I'd seen somebody else had done one, so I thought, no, I'm not going to do it. But I did mention it, and people like messaging me say, Dave, we want to see what your, you know, George Harrison rankings would be. So I hope you've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed doing it. So until the next time, it's Beatle Dave wishing you all peace, love, and happiness. Whatever you're doing, please stay safe. I will try to do another video tomorrow, but I can't promise that I will be doing one. And then I'm back at the dreaded Fun Factory for 4 days. Until the next time, peace, love, and happiness to you all. And remember, Beatle Dave loves you all. Ta for now, my ducks.